Folks, we'll spend a few minutes here with a guy who played you some songs earlier. He was a good storyteller, too. He's a fascinating fellow who I've really enjoyed getting to know over this past year as we've settled in over at Middle Tennessee State University. They've got a great resource there, the Center for Popular Music. He came down from Chicago a couple of years ago now, I think it was,
2.5 years ago.
to run this fascinating entity. And Greg Reich, give him another round of applause. Just say hi to Greg.
Thank you.
What's the scope of your work and what's the mission of the center?
Center for Popular Music is a research center, so we have an archive that encompasses any and all things related to any and all kinds of American popular music, from the colonial era all the way up to the present, sound recording, sheet music, gospel and secular songbooks, photographs, manuscripts, all kinds of things, documenting all kinds of the music making that have been going on in this country for now hundreds of years. And we also do programs, bring in speakers, authors, and musicians to do workshops, concerts, talk about their careers, talk about their research, all that kind of thing.
So I've always wondered this, actually, in the realm of academia, the word popular music kind of means something a little different than it does out here. So if somebody were to come to you and say, Greg, I've got this incredible artifact from the Village People, do you say, well, that's not popular music like we mean it, or are you like, yeah, it's all?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if anybody out there happens to have an incredible artifact from the Village People, please see me after the show.
Right, see?
I get asked this question all the time. What do we mean by popular music? It's not just pop music, contemporary or otherwise, although that's certainly part of our scope. It's really the music that ordinary people have been making, whether for money or for their own edification, so folk music and commercial genres, since the beginning of the founding of our country, and even a little bit before. We do have some things from the early and mid 18th century, actually, in the archive. So it's American vernacular music. It's everything that's not classical music. So music that ordinary people enjoy in all walks of life.
Right.
And so in that sense, it's all encompassing.
Now, the reason that we are so affectionate for this region of the country, it's beautiful, great people, but we have the particular love and fascination with the musical bedrock that's here, because this terrain, broadly speaking, produced the roots of what we know as country and bluegrass music.
That's right. That's right. Researchers, ballad collectors, they recognized that early on, starting around the turn of the 20th century, when they started to come in to the southern mountains. Seeking to find, initially they were looking for vestiges of the Old English and Scottish musical genres and repertory that were still surviving here in the mountains. But in fact, what they found was much more, fiddle music and lots of things. So certainly there's a lot of country music, a lot of bluegrass. Even the father of bluegrass himself, Bill Monroe, was not from Appalachia. He was from Western Kentucky. Still, Appalachia has been such an important part of the roots of that repertory, that style, and of course, all of the cultural underpinnings for all those things.
Yeah. I mean, in the 50s and 60s, even today, you've got people recording songs like Barbara Allen or the Knoxville Girl, whose Anglo origins trace back 400 and 500 years.
Right, and also, newer, relatively speaking, newer ballads that started. That were given life here in this country, that come from this region, famous murder ballads and all kinds of things, that some of which are now can be documented, looking at court records and newspaper accounts and so on, because compared to those old English ballads, they're not quite as old.
You got a ballad you want to do just now?
I do. Driving over here, I live in Murfreesboro, which is where the Middle Tennessee State is located, of course, and driving over here, came through beautiful Roane County, and I saw the exit signs there for the village of Kingston, and it got me thinking about this particular song. It's a murder ballad. Goes by a couple of different names, but I think the one that is most apropos is simply The Hills of Roane County.
Right.
These beautiful hills way back in Roane County, that's where I roamed for many long years. That's where my heart's been most tender ever. That's where the first step of misfortune I made was about 30 years Amanda Gilbraith was then called my wife. Her brother stabbed me for some unknown reason. Just 3 months later, I'd taken time's life. For 7 long years, this whole world I ramble. I've been to old England, to France, and to Spain. But I thought of my home way back in Roane County. So I boarded a steamer and I came back again. I was captured and tried in the village of Kingston. Not a man in the county would say one kind word. When the jury came in with the verdict the next morning, a lifetime in prison was the words that I heard. When the train pulled out, my mother stood weeping. My sister sat alone with a sigh. And the last word she said was, Willie, God bless you. Willie, God bless you, goodbye. No matter what happened to me in Roane County, no matter how long my sentence might be, boys, when you ride home from that prison in Nashville, place one of my songs in your letter for me. So poor Craig had to sit here for 4 minutes and listen to me scream into his ear.
No, that was very pleasant. I got the best seat in the house. We talk about, we use the term Americana on our show and in our radio life a lot.
Oh, you're not going to ask me to define Americana,
no,
are you?
but it does sort of reflect that this is going somewhere, that this music, these traditions are alive.
Yeah, and Americana is in some ways the great mingling of all the roots music traditions, black and white and Hispanic and all these traditions that flourish mostly in the South, throughout the South, and have come together in all these many interesting ways. So Americana is not a genre, it's not a sound. It's many sounds, but it's contemporary music that has a palpable, audible sense of that history and those roots, the agrarian roots, the rural roots of these many styles. It may tap
one tradition, or it may mingle 2 and 3 that you can identify. And some of my favorites are the ones that sort of find the way to cross.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's where things for me get really, really interesting. Although I certainly enjoy the styles in what might be called their more pure forms as well. But of course, even those old root styles themselves are an amalgamation of different things.
And you guys are putting out some of the older music as they emerge out of your collection on spring-fed records, right?
That's right. We have a Grammy-winning record label that we operate out of the Center for Popular Music at MTSU called Spring-Fed Records, and is devoted to the traditional music of Tennessee and surrounding regions, and a lot of great stuff that's already on the label, and even more that's set to come out in the first half of 2017.
Website?
The website for the Center for Popular Music is simply mtsu.edu/popmusic. And you can get from there to Spring-Fed Records and learn about all the other things that we're doing.
Great. Gregory, thanks a lot.
Thank you,
It's fun
Craig.
hanging out.